The wind in Keddie, that early spring of '81, wasn't just a sound, it was a living, breathing presence. It gnawed relentlessly at the resilient pines, worried the eaves of cabins clinging precariously to the mountainside, and whispered through the seemingly impenetrable cracks of even the most stoutly built structures nestled in the rugged embrace of the Feather River Canyon. But on April 12, 1981, as the first pale fingers of dawn stretched across the sky, painting the eastern horizon with hesitant hues of rose and gold, a different kind of silence settled over Cabin 28. A silence born not of peace, but of a profound, unanswerable horror that would forever echo in the heart of the community, a persistent, chilling whisper that time could never quite erase. It began, as tragedies often do, with the stark, disarming simplicity of the mundane. Sheila Sharp, a girl poised on the cusp of womanhood, awoke in the crisp morning air, a lightness in her step as she walked the short distance from a neighbor's cabin towards her family's. She'd spent the night there, a routine sleepover that, in devastating retrospect, felt like an impossible, cruel twist of fate, a thread of normalcy violently severed. When she pushed open the familiar door to Cabin 28, the world tilted on its axis, irrevocably shattering into a million shards of disbelief and terror. Tina, her vivacious younger sister, was gone. Her mother, Sue Sharp, lay terribly still in the living room, a grotesque still life bathed in the nascent light. Nearby, Johnny Sharp and his friend Dana Wingate, two boys with futures unwritten, were equally motionless. It was a chilling tableau, a scene of unimaginable brutality that defied all rational explanation. The stark details were horrifying: strips of duct tape and electrical cords used to bind the victims, a claw hammer lying starkly on the floor, its purpose sickeningly clear, and a butcher knife discarded nearby, its blade glinting dully in the weak morning light. An overturned coffee table, a mute witness to the chaos, added to the disarray. The air thick with the earthy scent of pine and something else, something metallic and sickeningly sweet, pressed down like a physical weight, suffocating all hope. The small community of Keddie, a picturesque haven of mountain air and quiet lives, reeled under the shock. The news spread like a wildfire, each whispered word a gasp of disbelief, a collective intake of breath that never quite exhaled. Who could have done this? Why this family, so seemingly ordinary, so deeply embedded in the fabric of their tight-knit community? The questions hung heavy in the air, congealing into a suffocating fog that would never quite dissipate, a perpetual cloud over their idyllic mountain retreat. Sheriff's deputies, then seasoned investigators, then a parade of officialdom descended upon Cabin 28, their meticulous movements a stark contrast to the chaos of the scene. They worked with somber determination, their faces grim, their voices hushed, a desperate attempt to impose order on an unfathomable crime. Fingerprints were lifted with painstaking care, photographs taken from every conceivable angle, and theories, desperate and hopeful, began to spin in the minds of the experienced law enforcement officers. But the cabin, it seemed, guarded its secrets with a fierce, impenetrable silence. It offered clues, certainly, but no definitive solutions. The scene was complex, confounding, and utterly baffling, a Gordian knot woven from violence and mystery. Initial speculation centered on a variety of possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. Was it a robbery gone catastrophically wrong, despite the fact that money was left untouched and valuables seemingly ignored? This baffling detail immediately complicated the narrative. Was it a random act of senseless violence, a horrifying intrusion of pure evil into their quiet lives, a manifestation of the darkness that sometimes lurks in the human heart? Or was it something far more personal, a hidden animosity or grudge that had finally erupted with unspeakable, merciless force? Every lead, every potential suspect, from the grizzled neighbor with a known temper and a history of local disputes, to the anonymous transient drifters who occasionally passed through the isolated community, was investigated with meticulous, relentless attention. But each path, however promising, led only to a dead end, a cul-de-sac of ambiguity that only deepened the agonizing mystery, leaving investigators to chase phantoms in the mountain mist. Years bled into decades. The initial frenzy of the investigation, the intense media scrutiny, and the communal outpouring of grief eventually subsided, replaced by a low, persistent hum of speculation, a dull ache in the collective memory of Plumas County. The passage of time, rather than healing, merely cemented the raw wound of the unsolved case. The most agonizing riddle, of course, was Tina Sharp. Her absence, a gaping wound in the fabric of the tragedy, tormented her surviving family, Sheila, her brother Rick, and their father, Martin, and haunted the investigators who had dedicated their lives to finding answers. For 3 agonizing years, her ghost lingered in the whispers and the unanswered questions, a silent, desperate plea for justice that echoed through the canyons. Then, in June of 1984, the brutal truth arrived in a grim parcel, a horrifying culmination of the family's worst fears. A portion of Tina's skull and other bone fragments were discovered by a fisherman near Camp 18, over 30 miles from Keddie, a remote location that added another layer of sinister complexity to her disappearance. The revelation brought no solace, only deeper despair, confirming the worst fears while offering no clarity on the how or why of her disappearance. It was a confirmation of her death, but not of the circumstances surrounding it, leaving the crucial questions of who took her, how she died, and why, agonizingly unanswered. The desolate discovery site only intensified the chilling feeling that Tina had been deliberately hidden, her fate orchestrated with chilling precision. The very air in Keddie seemed to hold the echoes of that night. Locals would speak of Cabin 28 in hushed tones, its dark, vacant windows like the unblinking eyes of a silent witness, staring out at the indifferent world, a silent sentinel of untold horrors. The familiar scent of pine, once a comfort, now carried a subtle, almost imperceptible tang of fear, a constant, chilling reminder of the pervasive terror that had invaded their idyllic mountain community and shattered its peace. Over the years, theories bloomed and withered like the wildflowers that dotted the surrounding hills, each one a desperate attempt to make sense of the senseless. Was it a drug deal gone catastrophically wrong, a debt collected with merciless brutality? The presence of other individuals in the cabin the night before, and the possibility of drug use among some present, certainly led some to this conclusion. Or was it a more personal vendetta, an act of rage fueled by a hidden animosity, a secret betrayal, or a domestic dispute that escalated beyond all control? Some whispered of a family member, a dark secret festering beneath the seemingly normal surface of their lives, finally erupting in a paroxysm of violence. Others pointed to drifters, to the chilling anonymity of the open road, the ease with which pure malice could arrive and depart, leaving no trace but utter devastation in its wake. The inexplicable details only served to deepen the enigma, twisting the knot of the mystery tighter and tighter, making it impossible to unravel. The seemingly deliberate damage to the phone lines, cutting off any chance of a distress call. The unusual, almost ritualistic manner in which the victims were bound. The broken knife blade found at the scene, hinting at a struggle, but yielding no clear answers. The undisturbed money, a baffling detail that seemed to rule out robbery as a primary motive. And the most confounding of all, the bizarre lack of a definitive, clear motive for such extreme, calculated violence. Each piece of the puzzle seemed designed to confound, to defy rational explanation, leaving investigators chasing shadows. The last known sighting of Tina, the half-eaten pizza on the table, the casual slumber party between friends, all fragments of a normal, peaceful evening, brutally shattered by an unspeakable act. The investigators, with their files growing thicker and heavier, their faces etched with the burden of unsolved cases, continued their quiet, relentless pursuit. New technologies brought new hope, allowing for re-examination of old evidence, but time, that relentless, unforgiving river, seemed to wash away the crucial, definitive evidence, leaving behind only the cold, hard rocks of speculation and unanswered questions. The hope for a clear resolution dimmed with each passing year, replaced by a grim acceptance of the enduring mystery. Cabin 28, stripped of its furniture, its memories, and the vibrant life it once held, eventually succumbed to the wrecking ball in 2004. The physical scars were finally erased, the dilapidated structure removed from the landscape, replaced by a quiet, empty space. But the invisible ones remained, deeply embedded in the soul of Keddie. The silence of that April morning, the silence of unanswered questions, the silence of a justice long deferred, continued to echo through the canyons, a persistent whisper in the wind that rustles through the majestic pines of the Feather River Canyon. The Keddie Cabin Murders remain, a chilling testament to the capacity for human darkness, a story eternally unfinished, a profound and disturbing mystery forever unsolved, forever haunting the quiet heart of California. What do you think is the most baffling aspect of this case?